No.
Yeah, it's not that fancy. All right. What is going on, you guys? It's Blaze over here at the Blue Chip Athletic Club podcast. I'm stoked to have on Chris, fellow health and wellness connoisseur, business mastermind partner, lots of things going on here. But before I let him kind of go into his background and origin story, I just want to shout out our partners over at First Form. Thank you guys for working with us. We love your stuff, obviously, or else we wouldn't promote it and use it every day. So I'm not going to belabor that too much. But Chris, let me know a little bit about you, man. Backstory. You can go back as far as you want, and then we'll get this thing rolling.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, first of all. But I've been in fitness since probably 2009. I was actually thinking about it earlier today. Whenever you're in high school, you kind of have that decision of what do you want to do with your life? How are you going to make an impact to the community, to the world? What's your job going to be? And I remember thinking that, saying, I like to work out. Why don't I make that my career? And literally just followed the footsteps all the way through. And here we are, 16 years later, and still doing the whole fitness thing. Everything from commercial health gyms to research papers to physical therapy clinics, industrial health. And then I've been where I'm at now at Edgebody here in Owensboro, Kentucky for about 10 years. And I've owned the place for about the last 4 years.
Yeah, damn. Talk about a journey there, dude. It's funny you talk about like thinking about what you want to do when you grow up. Did you ever take those like aptitude tests when you were a kid?
I think I
Did they
did,
still
but I
have
don't
those?
remember what they were.
Yeah, so essentially they would like ask you a list. Maybe it was like 30 or 40 questions. I think I was in like seventh grade at the time, and it was like basically trying to put you into a job based on like your answers to this question. Did you ever do that?
I want to say yes, I did because I always, there was times where I was like, I want to be a mechanic. Then it evolved to I want to be a doctor, to a lawyer, to my dad was a banker, so I was like, I can do that.
Yeah, I only ask because I specifically remember mine because the results were just outrageous. So I sit down, and I'm going to school in the Northeast at the time, and I I get I get through the test, and like my buddy sitting next to me, he's like, "Oh, she told me I should be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer." Yeah, high achieving person, blah blah blah. Sitting on one side of
Right.
me, the other side of me, the person's like, "Oh, I should be a veterinarian. I should be a journalist," and I forget what their third one was. So I click, submit, and my I shit you not, these are the three things that it gave me. It was like, you should be a skydiving instructor, a circus performer, or a pilot. And I shit you not, they literally told like what are you in seventh grade, 13-year-old kid that they should be a circus performer. I was like, what is happening with this, dude? I like answered it like legitimate. Like I like literally answered the questions exactly how I would actually answer the questions. It's just really, really unfortunate that 13-year-old me was just hit with this. You could, perform at the circus, you could teach people to skydive, or you could be a pilot, which, I guess maybe the data and statistics worked out
I
good because
mean, you
that's
are a
they
pilot,
were one for
so
three, honestly. I have no idea. But yeah, just curious what if you had anything like that when you were growing up. But yeah, man, it's really cool to hear that 2009, that makes you kind of old, just saying. But
I'll be 37 this year, so yeah, I'm getting
which
there. But
which
hey,
is super cool
full
that
head
you've
of
been
hair,
kicking around. No, you still got the hair, dude. Hold
no
on to
no gray hair, everything's there.
it. It's cool that you've been like kicking around and kind of made the passion into a job as well. I'm curious, like when you're going through this establishment of this thing, like, how do you get to owning a space and owning a facility? Because that's, there's a lot of people that probably are looking at you like, damn, dude, this guy's got it like figured out. Like he's made it in this space to where he has his own space. He's able to live off of that. I mean, shit, he's got the logo on the t-shirt. Like how did you come to this like position, and talk a little bit about kind of like making the dream a reality?
Yeah, so it was kind of like I remember whenever I fully took over the ownership of the gym and we pretty much kind of made the full social media announcement. And I remember the things that I said on it was like, whenever I was 18, I wanted to be a trainer. I made that happen whenever I was 20. Whenever I was 22, I decided that I wanted to be a manager. I made that happen whenever I guess I was probably 25, 26. And then after that, I was like, I want to own a gym. And I made that happen whenever I was, what, 32, 33. So it was just, I don't want to say like I manifested it to happen, but it was like literally those were things that I thought about and I figured out ways and how to actually make it happen. But you know how the fitness world is. So many people are going to come in, think it's a flashy show, train a client or two, and then realize that this is hard work. This is getting up early, staying up late, doing programs, doing podcasts, marketing, emails, everything that goes into like the back end of it. Whenever you're client, or in my case, we do group fitness. So we do a lot of anywhere from two or three people to a session to the biggest we had our Memorial Day session. I had 62. So I had a massive group there. And whenever people come in, they see you for that hour, for that 30 minutes, and that's all that they see, that's all that they know. But they just don't see that back end work, the hard work that you have to do to make things a reality.
Yeah, dude, you're the janitor, you're the website builder, you're the everything, dude. Like that's like it's crazy. It's crazy. I thought, and this is probably naive me. Like I'm like, "Oh, I'll start coaching people." And I think that like I thought, "Oh, if I do this, maybe like 80% of my effort will go towards like coaching people." 20% I understand I'm doing something else. There's like nothing that could be more false than that. I would say I probably spend like 90 to 95% of my time doing things that are not coaching centric, and then like 5 to 10% of the time doing the things that I actually enjoy when it comes to this, because you know the deal. It's social media marketing. It's writing emails. You're following up with clients. You're doing all this stuff, and a lot of it doesn't really feel like you're doing the thing that you signed up for, which I feel like somebody should have written in big bold letters. Although I probably wouldn't have listened to them anyway.
No, I probably wouldn't have either, but it's just, yeah, I was just working on something else before we jumped on this call, and it was one of those things that it said like, what's something that's a misunderstood thing about your career or your field, and it's definitely what you just mentioned. It's like if you want to be a trainer, hell yeah, dude, go for it. That's awesome. But know that you're going to have a lot of back end work. You're going to have a lot of early mornings and late nights to make your dream a reality.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be remiss to not shout out the guys that kind of brought us together into the same room, Dave and Jeremy. Do you want to talk a little bit about like what it's been like to be working in a mastermind group with guys that have, we'll say, like that have paved the way, that have figured out like how to kind of work in the one online space, two, just like build a successful business that moves the way that you want and is kind of shaped that way, and then three, like some stuff that you've maybe learned throughout that time.
Dude, they're two of the goats in their own respective fields. D'Lo, David, he's, built this massive insurance agency company that's insane. He's still out there hustling. At 50 years old, he's still out there hustling, making phone calls, dropping off business cards, dropping off bank bags. Everything that he talks about, he's actually doing those things. And then Jeremy on the other end, I mean, started up at Men's Health and been in the game for longer than me. So I mean, it's just almost a blessing to see somebody that's been where we're at now, and they can kind of definitely help you get there and help you navigate the roadblocks. If you have questions, they're always there because most likely the question that we have, they've probably experienced it 15 times by now, just because of either the scale that they're at or the entire length that they've been doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I feel like most of the time when I hop on a call with one of those guys, it's almost just validating the shit that I already know. It's like I know the things
Yeah.
that need to happen, or the path that I need to take, but having somebody of like, like somebody on the outside of what you do day to day saying like, "Hey, dude, you're going the right way. You're doing the right stuff. Like, be patient." Having that we'll call coach in the business world, and kind of that mentor, I feel like is just so critical to make sure that you're on the path, because you probably know too at this point, like I don't have a ton of friends that are doing this stuff, man. Like it's like there's not a lot of
Right.
people that live in this world of like go out and get it. And I obviously I fly planes during the day and then do this thing by night, so it's even more different than you. To where I'm like working in a space of like active duty military dudes that like that is their life from, eight, we'll call it 8 to 4. It's typically not like that, but that's their, normal job. And then like they go home and they like turn everything off. And for me, it's like I got to go home from that. And then I got to turn everything on into this other thing and check into this other world that sometimes it's even hard to like keep it separate. Like it's hard to know like what I can and can't do, and how to kind of navigate that space as well. So for me, it's been super important to I love having coaches that push me and realize like, hey, when I'm not bringing it, or when I have like a really obvious thing that I can shift or change, they kind of bring that up to me and hold me accountable to that and to that line. And it's really helpful for that personally for me. And I'm sure like for you, they've been like, hey, dude, like take the leap, like don't be afraid to do X, Y, or Z, or like, or you're doing the right thing. Like go ask for that review, go ask that company to work with you, because your product is worth it and what you're doing is worth it. And the people that are doing it with you are worth it as well. And I think just having that belief is so critical, because again, you don't have people that you can be like at work, be like, hey, dude, like, what do you think about being an entrepreneur? It's like they're like, I don't know, man. I just like turn
Right.
wrenches
Yeah.
on planes, or I fly planes until 4 o'clock and then I go home.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some trainers on staff as well and everything. And one of them, she has the passion and everything. Another one, she's actually getting her master's degree in athletic training now. So, it's definitely a completely different idea from somebody that eats, sleeps, and breathes this kind of stuff every single day. It's like, I'm 36, going to be 37. I think I am. I was born in 88, so whatever that math comes out to being.
Math isn't
Um,
too good in Kentucky. I got it.
no, no, man. I mean, I, I count backwards from five and say switch. That's about what I do. But, but I don't even know what I was saying now.
That's all right. It'll come back. It'll come back to you.
It'll come back. It'll
Um,
come back.
oh no,
It floats
you're
in and out.
surrounded by it all the time. You were saying that you had somebody
Oh
who
yeah.
is getting their master's in exercise science. And
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, but like with me, it's like, I'm in my 30s. We don't have kids yet. I'm at the gym, you know, most days, pretty much I'd say 5, 6, even 7 days a week, I'm there at 5 a.m. Now there's times where I'm able to come home, unwind, let out the dog, eat lunch, do something like that. But and then I'm there until the earliest that I'm leaving is 6 o'clock at night. So I'm in the space the entire time, which I'm able to be in the space the entire time because fitness is my life. That's what I do. Everything from helping somebody learn a deadlift technique all the way to jumping on a phone call with somebody that had to weigh in and stressed out because they only lost half a pound last week. Those are different things that you see every single day. And if I had other distractions, it would be hard for me to give it 100%. So kudos to you for being on a plane in the air without Wi-Fi, without being able to take a phone call from a client and still making it work.
yeah, no, it's a challenge for sure. But it's a lot of it is just kind of managing expectations for clients in the beginning of being like, hey, this is what I can give you. This is what I'm capable of giving you, and making sure that I don't kind of take on too much, which definitely is something that's a trap for people that are high achieving. And I like to think of myself as that too. So it can be a challenge. But I want to know too, like you've been in the health space for, a while, since 2009, I think you said. So tell me, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had in your own health and wellness? Like, do you have any current goals right now that you're aspiring to do or complete or hit? What's kind of the mantra for you? Maybe where did it begin, and then where is it morphed into as you're now kind of entering your late 30s?
Well, initially, I think that anybody that gets into training or into fitness, their initial thing is, I'm going to train, you know, college athletes, professional athletes. I'm going to get these high achieving people that are going to pay me a shit ton of money, and I'm going to have the great life. That's kind of what I thought initially, but I remember the first time. So I ended up going to school at Kentucky Wesleyan College here in Owensboro, and they had a personal training class basically. And part of that class was you got to have one of these staff members of the college. They volunteered basically to have a trainer for 4 weeks. And from the very first time that I can remember, seeing her get stronger, get healthier, her confidence go up. That was that initial drive to say, okay, this is cool. I like doing this. I like helping, you know, what we do now. We help busy professionals and busy parents that have life juggling all the way from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. At night, and it's our goal to come in, give them a hell of a workout in 30 minutes. Some of them stay for 60 minutes, but give them that plan to where they don't have to. If their kid says, "Hey, I want Chick-fil-A for supper," then you can go out and have Chick-fil-A and eat it smartly. Those kind of little life hacks is kind of what we really dive into a lot. I did not answer your question at all. I understand that,
No, it's all
but
good.
you know,
What do
I'll
you think
just
is
ramble
what are
on.
some yeah, you're good. What are some struggles you feel like you've had in your own health, like, and what your goals were kind of as a kid, or in the space initially? And I'll tell you, like, for personally, like, I didn't enter this space thinking I was going to work with professional athletes in any way. I was like, oh, dude, I when I was 18 wanted to like be shredded and hook up with chicks. That was the goal. It was like, how do you look jacked and make people like want to sleep with you as a 18-year-old boy? Which, is that right? Probably not. But there's a lot of men out there, I feel like, that can empathize with that and understand that that was kind of the goal. But as I kind of developed and grew, it was like, hey, now I want to be good at my sport. And then as I kind of finished that, I wanted to be like really, really strong. And that kind of lended me to a different style of training, which was like powerlifting style. And then I get to this point where, the bubble bursts, if you will. And I'm like, I tell this story a couple of times. Like, I'm flying in naval flight training, and I do this like weigh in before I go and start a new section of training. And at the weigh in, I'm probably the biggest I've ever. I was definitely the strongest I've been. I'm hitting crazy numbers, bench, squat, and deadlift, and that was kind of like the goal, is to drive that number up. And I stopped on the scale, and the doc goes, "Hey, you're 230 pounds." I was like, "Sweet, yeah." I'm like swollen up like
Yeah.
a balloon. But again, I felt like super strong. Definitely the goal was to be big and strong. And the guy's like, yeah, that's great, but if you gain another pound, you can't fly the plane that we teach everybody to fly in, because the ejection seat
Yeah.
that you're flying in is rated to 231 pounds. So I'm
Oh,
like
wow.
sitting there, and I'm like, oh, like, this is a shock for me. One, two, I start to have the realization that the only person that thought bench pressing 315, squatting 405, and deadlifting 500 pounds, I was the only one that thought that was cool. Nobody else really cares. So I'm having like this realization of like, now I'm winded going up the stairs. I don't get to play lacrosse the way that I would like to, because I feel heavy and my knees hurt and my back is starting to hurt. So I'm essentially like training into something and training myself down into this space that I like felt like I needed to pull myself out of and remove myself from, or else I'd be, this person that I think is not the person I am today, that can move, play sports, and do these things, ideally until I die. So I'm curious if you had some sort of like character arc of like, hey, this is where it began, this is where it was in the middle, and this is the end, kind of similarly to that, or if you've kind of just been like tried and true, like, dude, I've just been doing this thing from day one and it's just felt right, and this is kind of where I'm at.
I wish I could say that, yeah, I've done this from day one and it's worked out. It's been my life for the past 15 years. But like anybody, I mean, we're human. We're natural. I got into fitness because I ran cross country. For example, I was 5'10", 135 pounds graduating high school. You could feel the bone in my upper arm. You could feel the bone there. I was skin and bones. And then I get into this health and fitness world where I got people like you coming in saying, "Oh, I bench, 315 pounds." And I'm like, "Cool, bro. I did the bar." So that's kind of where it started at there. And then since then, I've done 7 marathons, 6 half Ironmans, and a full Ironman. So in that space there, it was a lot of ultra endurance type of sports. And so the longest time the weights were still there because that's a very important part. Um, I mean, muscle, longevity, health, metabolism, anything that can go along with it. But it was never my primary focus. And then I got married, put on a little bit of that marital happiness weight. And we woke up one day and we were like, we're fat. What happened? I was at my heaviest, about 190 pounds for me, which was, I mean, to some people that may not seem like a lot, but, whenever I was graduated high school, we're talking 12 years later, I gained almost 70 pounds. And that's a pretty big jump. So that's when we started doing the 75 hard challenge. And we've done it twice since then. And the first time, we dropped, I dropped 22 pounds in the 75 days, and it completely almost revamped the way that I look. It was the first time that, you could, I mean, whenever you're 150 pounds, you got abs because you're skinny. You don't have abs because you're built. And I finally had those built abs. I had, actually chest muscles. I had the biceps. I had to be able to flex and you can see something move actually. And to me, that was cool, which that was just last year. And then ever since then, it's kind of gone through and changed everything. I'm actually became a big fan of the pen and paper strength app. Have you ever used them before or heard about them?
No, I have not.
You need to check them out because they do a thing in every October called Squattober. Basically, you're squatting 5 days a week. I really got into that last year. Um, so I think I added like 25 pounds to my squat max on there. But then we hit December and they've got a program called Dead December. Basically, you're doing a deadlift, some type of variation every day, 5 days a week. And that's whenever I hit that 315 deadlift. I hit, pull ups with 70 pounds strapped on me, those different things. And it made me feel like, I can be strong. I can do this. But also going on after that, we did another round of 75 hard with about 20 of our members at Edge Body in January. And there was a half marathon in town in March. And it was kind of like, I've done this half marathon every year that they've had it. My goal was always, go under 145, which I think is what is that? I think that's right
That's
around like
fast,
eight
dude.
minute pace, I think, something
Yeah,
like
that's
like
fast.
like that. And I was getting stronger. It was one of those weird things. Like everybody says, you can't do cardio and gain strength. You can't, you're going to lose your gains and everything. For me, that wasn't the case. I don't, it could be circumstantial to a certain level. I completely understand that. But it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I'm the strongest I've ever been, but I'm also running faster times than I have since 2018 was when I did my last marathon. And it's just been a journey since then. I did that half marathon in 135. So, and then, also being able to deadlift 315. It was just, you feel like a badass whenever you can run faster than the majority of the people that are doing the race. And then the people that are around you in the race, you're stronger than them.
Yeah, the it's crazy that your journey definitely follows like the we'll call skinny kid journey. And
Hmm.
mine probably the opposite of the fat kid journey, you know. But I'm interested to hear like as you're going through this like character arc of like, hey, you were the skinny guy and then you got kind of stronger and then you felt like, hey, you got married and a little bit comfortable. You're coaching this whole time, right? I mean, like you're a trainer this whole time. So like
Yeah.
how did that feel when you're going to the gym and you've got a group of 15 people, whether you own the space or not, that are looking at you like the expert, and then you're feeling like, man, now I'm like the fat guy who's like lost it, like how did that like change and kind of alter what you've done moving forward from that realization?
Nobody ever came out and told me I was fat. I wish they would have a little bit sooner beforehand. But like afterwards, I remember we were doing a podcast, and the guy said he was like, "Yeah, you used to have a beer belly, now you have a six pack." And it was like, "Why didn't you tell me this whenever I had the beer belly? I could have worked on it." He's like, "Nah, man, I'm not going to say anything like that to you." So I wore some bigger shirts. I wore some different things that kind of hid that. I was very good at sucking in my gut whenever I'm demonstrating the exercises. What's good is that, since I've got that experience, I've got that different background. But then also, we all hear the stories and the memes of the gyms around that are like, oh, yeah, listen to the fat guy over there giving the nutrition advice. It doesn't make sense. And that's definitely kind of where, my headset is now. It's like, people are seeing us and seeing what we do. We've got group runs every Saturday. We do Metcon workouts on Sunday. We do, group training sessions. We do 60 plus 30-minute sessions throughout the week. So we're always moving, always there. And we're just preaching that healthy lifestyle, but also knowing that life happens. And sometimes you fall off the wagon, even if you're doing things right. Our biggest thing was like, yeah, we were still working out, but it doesn't help whenever you eat a pint of Ben and Jerry's twice a week whenever you're working out. You can't outwork the bad diet.
Yeah. So you kind of like felt like you could take that experience that you had and then like almost relate it to people that are coming to your space, which is cool. Like you're able to kind of
Yeah.
relate to people and be like, hey, dude, like I've been here. I've felt what you felt as somebody who then has to train people. So talk about like you want to live the life that you're preaching, and then like now you're in this space where it's like I don't know if I'm doing that, and then but you've bounced back and you've recovered, and then you're running, hour 35-minute half marathon, which is super fast, and then stronger than you've been before. I'd say like 75 hard. I've attempted. I think I've told you this before, like 5 times. I think I ended up doing like 75 hard or some variation of it for like 6 months, 5 or 6 months last year, because I was so strict about the rules. Like it was like I missed a progress photo, restart. I did a thing and my like diet. Well, let me break this back down. Let me bring it back. 75 hard, for those of you that don't know, is a 75-day challenge where you have to hit very specific wickets every single day. One of them is 2 workouts for 45 minutes. Make sure you correct me if I forget any of these too, Chris, by the way. One
Got you.
is 2 workouts, 45 minutes, one of which has to be outside. 2, you're supposed to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, and it's supposed to be 10 pages a day. You're supposed to drink a gallon of water. You're supposed to take a progress photo. And I'm probably missing one. What am I missing?
No
Oh,
alcohol, no
follow
cheat
a diet.
meals.
Yeah, you have to
Yep.
follow a diet with no cheat meals. So I think that's the 5 things that you have to do. So I'm on this thing and I'm like, oh sweet dude, 2 workouts a day. That one's cash money. That one's super easy for me to do every single day. And I wrote like a calendar, like literally drew it out on a piece of paper with like calendar dates, and I'm like Xing dates off with like things that I'm doing on my refrigerator. It's like a kid's report card. It's super funny how I went super old school, but I make it through like 45 days and then I forget a progress photo one day. And I'm traveling back and forth from the East Coast for work a ton. I'm doing all this stuff and no progress photo, restart. Anytime you miss a day, you got to go back to day one and go over again. So, and you can't drink alcohol too, which for me was a bit, I'll hit on that in a minute. But so I'm going through, go back to day one, going through again. I'm like, oh, my diet is going to be, I'm not going to have chocolate, which for me, like it's hard for me to nail down a diet. I feel like I've been pretty strict and regimented and eating relatively well, clean in general. But I decided that my diet was going to be, no chocolate. And I get down the path and I'm actually visiting my wife's family out in New Jersey. And I end up eating a donut when I'm there, which I love donuts. I probably should have had it like be no donuts or sweets in general. But and then I listened to Andy Frisella on his podcast talk about 75 hard. And he's like, there's like no cheat meals, nothing at all. Like you cannot have anything that is not like super like to a diet. And he's like, if you think that it is probably wrong, then it's wrong. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, God damn it. Like I had this donut totally thinking like this was not chocolate. So I totally could have it. And then lo and behold, like boom, punch in the mouth. It was not, if I would have like continued on, I'm on day like 50 at this point of round 2, by the way. So this is basically like 3 months now. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, now like I can't do this with like knowing that like that happened, right? So I continue on again. I try again. I think I hit again like 30 some odd days and I forget a progress photo. lo and behold, I finally make it to like the beginning of the year this year, and then on my like fourth attempt. And I think again, the thing that like bit me in the butt was no progress photo. So my qualm, or my challenge for myself will be, I'm going to do 75 hard at some point, again, to do it like the real way. I'm just going to download the app so that it reminds me every single day to go on and take my progress photo, which, contrary to popular belief, as an online coach, and I guess in person coach too, we do some stuff in person as well. I'm not standing there taking photos of myself every single day to to post online. And I was awful at doing it, dude. Awful at having my progress photos there. And then, yeah, I think the other part of it that's interesting in 75 hard, and maybe you can attest to this as well, is the no drinking part. So because I was on and off the wagon for the better part of 5 months when I was doing 75 hard, I didn't drink that whole time. Uh, and when I'm doing that, it was like a real test for me at first, because I'm a social guy. I really like to like get out and like have a social drink with friends. I really like to like compete in like drinking games, and games in general like was super fun for me at like parties and stuff. So I find myself like at these events, and then at first I'm like, oh, I have this excuse, like I'm doing 75 hard, so I can't have drinks, you know? And I started like blaming that thing. And then eventually I kind of wanted to like see if I could just not blame something else and just say no to the social drinking, which I think was super difficult for me to do as well. Cause it's, you know, it's like, oh, come on, dude, like just have a beer with us is like
Just
the,
have one. It's no big
yeah,
deal.
dude, it's
Yeah.
a classic thing. And not that I can't just have one or two, you know, I think I found that balance as I kind of gotten older, but the ability for me to say no has been something that I've had to really, really work on. And it's something that I learned in 75 hard, where I just showed up to a place, and then I was just like, oh no, I'm good. And I didn't have to be like, oh, I'm good, but it's because of 75 hard. It's not because I just don't want to have it, you know? So for me, the challenge was good for that, even if I haven't officially completed it on and off the wagon for, you know, 5 months of, you know, making it three-quarters of the way. Yeah, I feel like I've done a lot of work in there, but I haven't completed it yet, and I'm not going to claim that I have until I finished up. But I want to hear about your experience with it. Was it easy? Was it tough? You lost 22 pounds, which is incredible. So hit me with your 75 hard
Yeah,
experience.
dude, there was times where it was an ass kicker. There was times where, okay, so backstory, I guess another reason probably why I gained the weight is because I still am, I love a good beer. I love beer. Beer and, Kentucky bourbon whiskey. That's what we do around here. And, there was a time where it was like, it'd be nothing to put down a six-pack of beer and then be fine. No, no buzz, nothing. So there was that alcohol. I wouldn't, I, I say there wasn't a dependency on it, but definitely that was my routine. You get done at work, you come home, you have a beer, you watch TV, you play with your dog. That's kind of the rut, the thing that we fell into. Um, and at first, that was going to be the hardest thing for me. I think it was. You can ask my wife, probably the first, if it's, 75 days, what, 11 weeks, 12 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, like two and a
So,
half months or so.
if we have 12 weekends and 11 of the 12 weekends, I'm in a pissy mood because I can't drink a beer. And she says the only reason I was in a good mood the last weekend was because she knew I was going to have beer in 4 days, which maybe that was true, but overall, that was a big thing. But it was kind of that shift that happened to me, saying like, I don't need to have a beer on a Tuesday night to relax. It's okay if you don't have that beer. If you have that feeling, that craving come up, if you can distract yourself, whatever means necessary for 20, 30 minutes, it's going to pass. It may take longer, it may be less than that. But if you can just have a little bit of willpower, a little bit of self respect for yourself, and say, I'm not going to do that today, then that next day, you just feel so much better. You just feel so much more accomplished. And it was a thing I remember that Andy said in one of his podcasts or one of the books. And then for anybody watching and listening, if you're 75 hard is considered a fairly extreme challenge. It's not something that I forget the statistics of it, but it's like the fail rate of it is insane. Some people claim it's super restrictive, it's super, demanding, and it doesn't promote good life balance and everything, but it's also coined as a mental toughness challenge, not a fitness challenge. And the mental side of it is such a huge difference because whenever you can go, I mean, I'm sure you have clients and I have clients as well that are like, they'll eat good Monday through Friday every week and they blow it on the weekend. That first time that you can go 7 days, 8 days without a cheat meal, without a drink, you just start feeling better. You just feel like almost like you're on top of the world, like your shit doesn't stink, kind of thing. That I can do this, I can do whatever I want to. And but going on with everything, with the challenge, our nutrition plan was we focused protein. So we ended up doing the whole 1 gram of protein at your goal body weight. So mine was 160. And then the hardest thing on the diet thing was we did no added sugar. So if you go to your cabinet, look at the nutritional label where it goes all the way down to carbs and sugars, that had to be an added sugar of 0. And that was on every single thing that we ate. And there's times that we bought something and it wasn't there and we had to get rid of it or we had to give it away. And almost looking back on it, that was the hardest part because of so much added sugar that's in all of our food that we have in general. Anything that's in a box, in a bag, in a wrapper, those things are going to have those added sugars. And we figured out, it's like one of my like little treats that I like to have in the afternoon before I go back to the gym is, a granola bar, throw some peanut butter on it. Well, we're looking at the calories on that. I mean, I was probably adding an extra 300-400 calories every single time that I did that. So those little shifts there that you don't think of, that's just a habit. Those little shifts that are a habit create such a massive result in it. And that is now maybe I still drink alcohol, but that is definitely one thing that I've stopped doing is kind of the mindless snacking that I was doing. Because even too, it was, you come home from work, yeah, we're fixing a healthy meal, but there's a bag of chips in the right next door to me that I'm going to grab and start munching on that while we're cooking our chicken and rice.
Yeah, and I want to like hone in on the thing that you said before of like it's a mental toughness challenge. It's not a physical challenge. So they say like 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each, and one's got to be outside. Well, like if you wanted to, you could just walk twice, and one of your
Yeah.
walks could have been outside, and that counts. And they make sure that that's really evident and clear in that challenge as well, so that you're not like, oh, I need to go and do like 2 HIIT classes and like burn myself out at both ends. Like, no, this is about like a time allotment. It's about like how do you structure your day, how do you plan to make these things happen, and oh, by the way, like can you be super strict and honest with yourself if you mess up, which again I have done, failed it like 4 or 5 times, and I'm eventually going to get back to doing it myself, probably towards the end of the year this year to do another one just during the holiday season when it's super tough to
Mm.
say no to a drink or two. But the thing is you got to make sure that you're ready to do those things, and it may be kind of extreme, and that's okay. I think that when you push people out of their comfort zone with something like 75 hard, you're able to really see kind of what you're made of and what you can do and what you can say no to and how tough you are mentally, because all that stuff is going to compound. And to be honest, like the easiest parts for me are like reading every day. Like I already do that. Like the eating relatively clean. Like it was hard for me to figure out what a diet was. So like I find that like the 75 hard challenge really doesn't change a whole lot, except I have to be able to remember to take a progress photo and add that to my repertoire of things and make sure that that's done. But yeah, I think that's a really cool way to do it. And if you guys are interested, go to check out Andy Frisella. It's I think he's got a whole episode where he talks about it for like an hour and a half about how it's going to help you do X, Y, or Z. It kind of gets you juiced up and ready to go. But to pivot a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about you talk mental toughness, physical toughness. There's a lot of that exists to be able to do half Ironmans and Ironmans for sure. So tell me about
You
like,
say mental toughness, I say childhood trauma that instead of therapy, I decided to do
yeah, yeah,
endurance
whatever
sports.
it takes, man. I want to hear about like what possessed you to do that. And I guess it could have been childhood trauma, but like why
No, it
half
was nothing like
Ironmans?
that.
Why full Ironman? Like full Ironman is insane. And maybe break down the race format for people that don't know. I know a
Sure,
lot of people
yeah.
probably know like swim, bike, run, but they don't know the distances and they don't know the training and the load that kind of goes into that. So talk about like the whole like arc of that as you kind of go through and then and where you kind of got to do the full.
Yeah, so ran cross country track, started in middle school, ran through high school, got a scholarship to run in college.
What event did you run?
Always kept cross country.
What event though? Oh, and track. What event did you run?
Track was usually 1600, 3200. Every once in a while they throw me in like the 4x8 or something like that. Nothing. Maybe I've done like one 400-meter race before, but that was just kind of like they needed an extra body to do it kind of thing. So it was
Yeah,
always like that mid to long
distance.
distance in
Yeah,
track.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually didn't have a track team in college, so we just had the cross country program. So most likely I would have been either doing the 5 or the 10,000 in track in college. But after that, I mean, it was kind of like some people around us here were kind of getting that marathon bug and that thing. And I was kind of like, for lack of better words, I was like, fuck it, I can do it too. And so I signed up for a marathon. Um, I did it, kind of trained for it, kind of not trained for it. Then I finished it. I was like, I can do faster. I think that's everybody's idea in any fitness space, whether it be like a high rocks race like you're doing, or even bench press. You can do more weight. You can run faster. You can do better at it, and you want to prove to yourself that you can. And that's kind of what I did. Ended up going, I think personal best in marathon was like 3:27 or something like that. I really wanted to do a good stride to try and qualify for Boston, which at the time would have been right around 3 hours. And I ended up getting hurt going through it, and a lot of that was just being on my feet all day long at the gym and then piling on the extra runs and everything. I did my first half Ironman in 2012. It was in Branson, Missouri. Which, if you've have you ever been to Branson?
Nope.
You're not missing much. It's okay. But I signed up for it because I was going to train a client to, be his coach. And I was like, man, if you do this race, then I'll do it with you. I signed up for it. He signed up for it. He dropped out. He didn't finish the race or even start the race. But I did it. And then that almost kind of stuck in there for a while. So kind of go distances on triathlon. It's kind of like you've got your sprint distance, which can be a variety of things. There's not a set distance on the sprint distance. Normally, you're looking anywhere from a 300 to a 500-meter swim. Um, Majority of them are in open water, either a river, ocean, or lake. And then your bike on that's going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 miles on a sprint, and then 2 miles to a 5K on the run. The Olympic distance, it's just funny. Whenever my wife did a few triathlons last year with us, and I don't know if we were watching the Olympics or watching something, and she asked me, I wonder what distance they do in the Olympics. And I was like, babe, I think it's the Olympic distance. And she was like, oh, you're right. You're right. Which that's going to be, what is that's essentially it's like a 1,500-meter swim, 40K bike, which 40 kilometers is like right around 24 miles. And then you'll do a 10K run after that, which is 6.2 miles. Um, did some of those. Really, I didn't get big into triathlon until it was 2016. Um, Actually, I finished Chicago Marathon in 2016. Less than a month later, I signed up for my second half Ironman because I was in good shape then. I was like, I can do this. Let's see what's going on. So I ended up doing 2017 town in Muncie, Indiana. Did the half Ironman there. Half Ironman in Augusta, Georgia in 2017. 2018, I did the half in Chattanooga, and then we did the half again in Augusta as well as Louisville, which is just a couple of hours away. So we did all those races, and in the midst of that was the full Ironman. Actually, I think it's kind of a cool story because I was doing the triathlon stuff, and the gym that we're at, we're so huge on the community. We're so huge on giving back. One of our slogans is "Give Fit, Give Back." Thing that we do is we've done campaigns and things before where it's like you come to the gym, you check in on Facebook, we'll donate 25 cents to our charity of the month. Other things going to be, if you lose 1 pound, for every pound that you lose, we'll donate $1 to our charity of the month. I like to say that's kind of how you guys get fit and we give back. And the group of people that we had at the time were just so, they loved what we were doing and loved everything. They actually did a fundraiser, and I was able to afford to do the full Ironman. So it was all community driven on that side of it there. But I did the full Ironman in Florida. I think it was Panama City's where it took place at. 2.4 mile swim in the Gulf of Mexico, 112-mile bike ride, and then you run a marathon after that.
So far, talk to me about like your training for that. Like it's like nuts how much effort that is, like, and how long it takes. Like I'm pretty sure people that are doing those like pretty fast are doing them 14ish hours, right? Like 14, 15 hours for a full is like a pretty good time. Like tell me about like
Yeah.
how do you prepare for that?
So yeah, so I guess I mean, well, you've got three different disciplines. Basically, they say in triathlon there's four disciplines: swim, bike, run, and nutrition. So the swim part, the 2.4 mile swim. Well, one, I knew it was taking place in an ocean, and I don't know if anybody has been to Owensboro, Kentucky, but we are far from an ocean. And the river we have in town, there's dead bodies that float by. There's refrigerators, tires. It's not a good place to practice your swimming at. So we just swam in a lap pool. Some people, I mean, I would say it's almost a lot the same of training for, a half marathon or even a marathon. You want to do some faster sets, you want to do some longer sets, you want to do things to simulate the race itself. But mainly it was just I was swimming 3 days a week, biking 3 days a week, and running 3 days a week. I capped out that top end mileage. I mean, I had done at this point I'd done what, 6 marathons by this point. So I took the whole idea of, you train for a marathon, your longest run you're going to do is 20 miles. You go much more than that, your increase of injury goes up, and that risk reward factor is just way too high. So you stick it at 20 miles. So I just kind of did the math and was like, okay, what's that percentage of it? For me, I think it was like 85 miles, the furthest that I got on the bike. And then I did. So with me, the swim was by far my weakest. Um, well, it is now because I it's harder to swim than it is to bike these days. But um, so I did like do the full distance Ironman distance in a pool one time, and that was just mainly a mental confidence, mental boost of saying, "Hey, you've done the distance, you can do it. Whatever happens in the ocean is going to happen, but you're going to be able to finish it." Because also outside of it, it's not like you can have all day to do it. You have to have certain time limits and time spots to get to the next level. I think it's 2 hours and 20 minutes to complete the 2.4 mile swim. And
Yeah,
then the
dude.
bike, uh,
That's longer than
it's,
some people have ever trained in one sitting ever. And then like
yeah.
the bike is what? What do you get? Like 8 hours or something like that to do the bike?
So the bike, it's kind of like a rolling thing. It's like you have to be at a certain point of the race by a certain time of day, which is normally, so I think it averages out to if you do as slow as possible on the swim, and you have to do at least like 13 or 14 miles per hour on the bike. I ended up, I didn't have any issues with any of the time constraints and everything, but 112 miles on a bike is a long, long ass time to sit on that seat. And I was thankful that it was Florida, so it was flat. But also, I was thankful that it was not a windy day because Florida can be super windy, especially whenever you're just off the coast. Um, but we did. I trained a bunch on hills. I trained on everything. I was in really good shape going into that. You have to be. You can't just show up to an Ironman whenever you're not doing a single thing. Um, and then yeah, the marathon after that was, I went out blazing the first. So it was a 2 lap marathon course. The first lap, I think the first 13 miles I did like 8:30 pace the first 13, and then I was like 12, 13-minute miles the second half. So I was just blew up and done by it. But all said and done, my goal was to get it under 13 hours, and I was like 12:58 or something along those lines,
Yeah, it's
maybe
awesome.
12:57. So
Yeah. And talk about the fueling a little bit, because I know there's probably people that are like thinking about doing an Ironman or something like that are like, yeah, the fueling thing is tough. Like you can't, yeah, obviously for anybody who's ever trained for a distance event, like you can't give effort for 13 hours and not replenish the body in some way. So talk about like how do you figure out how to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, well, first things you got to figure out what intensity you can be at because that higher intensity that you're going to work, there's more blood that's going to be going to your extremities to power what you're doing. And if you're going too hard and you eat too much while you're doing it, then that food's just going to sit in your gut and you're going to get sick. It's not going to get absorbed into the body. So you want to make sure that you're in, we call it like a zone two, which is going to be a lower aerobic zone. So you're able to really build your cardiovascular engine and you can go longer and longer. Whenever you're in that zone, you're going to get more mitochondria and all the blah, blah, blah science stuff with it there. Um, but pretty much, I mean, you just got to eat. I mean, the day-to-day eating was just insane. That's probably where, looking back on it, probably where I picked up some of the habits that caused me to get a little bit fat was because, I could get away with eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's and drinking 4 beers after I just bike for 4 hours. So um, on the runs and on the bike itself, it was a good mix. Mainly, it was a lot of carbs that you're doing, just because something that's simple digesting, simple that can go on with it and give you the energy. I think I had a special like a hydration drink that we drank on the bike. You can do the gels, you can do like the little energy chews, but for 13 hours, you're going to need a little bit of food and a little bit of actual real fuel. Mine was Uncrustables was my go-to. Um, you freeze them, you get them out of the freezer right before you start your bike ride. Whenever it's time to eat it, it's pretty much thawed out by that time, and it's a good little. You get some fats, you get a little bit of that sugar rush to kind of keep you going.
Yeah. Yeah. How cool, man. Yeah. Talk about a
As far as
journey.
like what the macro words and stuff, I cannot tell you what the macros were or anything along there because it was just about trying to eat enough food to control it. And then once
Yeah.
again, I
No,
was down to
yeah, I think that kind of hits the nail on the head is like the four disciplines of you need to get used to doing all those things. And oh, by the way, you need to get used to eating when you're doing them too. Eating while you're swimming, I guess, is probably not part of the training regimen, but um,
no, but you definitely want to make sure you have something with it being an ocean swim. It was definitely like they had the showers to get the salt off of you. They had like some water cups afterwards, and then you just want to have something ready on the bike
yeah,
that you can whether it be a drink or a bar or something that you can get down real quick and real easy while you're doing the transition and changing over to the bike. Once you're on the bike, you can eat a little bit more.
yeah,
And then the run, I remember at the end of the run, I was surviving on Lay's potato chips and Coke because it was the only thing that my stomach could hit. Um, I needed the chips for the sodium because that's just what my body craved, and I needed to get that sugar in.
yeah, yeah. Crazy, man. Well, I'm sure it was like super cool to accomplish that, and then kind of let it rip. So, we're about here. I gotta go and get ready for work myself here shortly. So I
Brother.
just want to say thanks again for popping on, Chris. I appreciate it. Chatting about all things, health and wellness, arc of skinny guy to fat guy to jag guy, and all things kind of in
Yeah.
between. Do you have any like you can give your tell people where they can find you? We'll put kind of your information here in the show notes as well, and then if anybody's out in Kentucky your way, you want to tell them where they can find the gym too.
Yeah, we've got a podcast as well. It's the Edge Body Radio Show. Find on Spotify or iTunes, Apple, and then it's Instagram. It's at Edge Body OBORO, and then Facebook is just Edge Body Boot Camp. Then we're on YouTube, LinkedIn. Physical location is 4010 Frederick Street in Owensboro, Kentucky, and then all of our stuff is on the website, simply edgebody.owensboro.com.
Cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate you coming on. And then I don't have a whole lot else for you besides keep getting after it and keep paving the way, dude. I'll let you know whenever I complete 75 hard, circa number 6 trial or whatever it becomes.
This is your year. Like this is
That's right. That's
your
right.
year. I
This is
got
my
it.
year. All right, man. Until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in. You don't get old because you stop playing. Sorry, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing. We'll see you guys next time.